getting a space and then being around such a beautiful landscape, and it's kind of refreshing, and it's the start of a new year. I kind of closed up everything that I had to do in December, knowing I was coming here and it was a fresh start. And that's kind of the reason why I called it from the beginning for my art gallery, was kind of like, it's not necessarily a starting point, but it's an arrival.
Hello, I'm Eric Anderson. The voice you just heard belongs to Chris Chapak. He is one of the many voices you will hear as we explore Wanuskewin Heritage Park's Artist in Residence program in Season 8, Episode 6 of YXE Underground. For the past 3 years, Wanuskewin's Artist in Residence program has welcomed emerging and established Indigenous artists to not only create within its beautiful space, but to share their inspiration and process with visitors to the park. This program is helping our community connect with Wanuskewin in new ways, and you'll meet some of the people behind the program in this episode of YXE Underground. Last year, I was at an art opening for Saskatoon's Brodie Burns, an amazing Indigenous artist hosted by the 525, and while I was there, I ran into Andrew McDonald. He is the co-executive director of Wanuskewin, and as we marveled at Brodie's art, he shared his passion for Wanuskewin's Artist in Residence program, how it was started by a very generous donation from Olivia and Greg Ewell, how it was connecting with Indigenous artists from across the Northern Plains, and that it was part of Wanuskewin's efforts to bring different aspects of Indigenous culture for visitors to experience. Andrew is a great guy, and I loved his pitch. So, a few weeks ago, I spent a morning at Wanuskewin meeting people who love this program and want to see it grow and thrive. You are going to meet Olivia and Greg Ewell, along with the current artist in residence, Chris Chapak, in this episode. But let's start with Andrew McDonald and his colleague Marcel Robitaille, who is the curator at Wanuskewin. We sat down inside one of the gallery spaces, and I started by asking Marcel how he describes the Artist in Residence program.
The Artist in Residence program is focused on artists from the Northern Plains. So showcasing emerging, established artists. They could be early in their career, they could be late in their career, and it's showcasing their artwork to the public.
So what's fantastic about this is I think under the umbrella of Wanuskewin, there's many things, right? Many different aspects of culture. So culinary arts, there's performing arts, certainly with storytellers and dancers here. But the visual arts in this case is just a beautiful opportunity to not only see finished pieces in the galleries, but see the pieces being created. And what the Artist in Residence program allows for guests is the opportunity for them to come and interact with the artist. What inspires you? What mediums do you use? How do you work? How do you become inspired? All those opportunities to ask the questions you've always wanted to ask and really see pieces being created, and then you can come back in a month's time and see the final product up in the Greg or Olivia galleries.
Why do you think so many, and I'm one of those people, I'm fascinated by the process of what artists create. Why do you think people are so fascinated by that?
That is a very interesting question. One of the things I like most about Indigenous art is that this art builds off of thousands of years of established theory and established artworks, and it goes back to the very beginning of essentially our people. So seeing that process and seeing a lot of those inspirations in the work itself is fantastic to see.
Yeah.
I like. You might look at a gallery piece and make some assumptions about it, like, oh, the artist was inspired by this or that or whichever. Perhaps you can't find what the kernel of inspiration might have been in something. I know, like, you're a big music guy, like I'm a big music guy, and there's some artists who are creating pieces that you they're not using kind of the regular format that maybe some of their peers might be using, or they might not use, might be a different tuning or a different, different instruments. And that to me is both what, blowing up any misconceptions you might have, as well as understanding, where the roots or where the origin of something came from, the inspiration of something came from. I think that this program allows both of those things to happen, but it really allows you to feel more closely connected to the artist, more closely connected to the galleries, and more closely connected to the planes.
You bring up such a good point there, Andrew, about music, because as soon as you said that, I was picturing myself, wouldn't it be great to be in the studio when, your favorite band is in the process of making it? But people can actually do that when they come here. So is it, what are those interactions like from your perspectives? Are people, are they shy, or do they just go right in and be like, hey, what are you doing in here? What's it like?
We just had a workshop with Jerry Whitehead, and he invited kids, members of the public in, and had them draw or make a piece for his show. And they kept saying, I can only draw stick people, I can only draw stick people, I can't do this. And the piece itself is beautiful, very much stick people. And he called the painting, I can only draw stick people. It's pretty good.
Oh, that's great. Depending on how the artist wants to work too. Some artists want to be, head down and focused and work that way, and then, they'll open their doors for a couple hours per day. Other artists are, part of the experience of what I'm creating is going to be influenced by people that are coming into the studio as well. So really it's up to the artist to dictate how they want the experience to go. What I do know is that the end result, when people come into the galleries and they see it framed, they see it, mounted on the walls, how it was arranged, I think that is like the big reveal at the end is almost like satisfying, right? It's like being able to see everything put together, what the artist had created, and then what the curator, how it has been arranged.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Marcel, as the curator, then, are you working closely with each artist to figure out what the best way is to display their works, or is that all on your shoulders?
I would say it's about half and half. Usually the artists have a vision for what they want the show to be. And I also have to weigh how this will present to the public itself. So in terms of putting panels up, how does that look? Lighting, how is that going to look with the paintings themselves? How can we best showcase each piece? So I would say it's half and half. Their vision, my vision. Yeah.
Just back a little bit to the process, because I just think it's so interesting. When you are working with an art, I guess when you first approach an artist to come here, what are those first kind of conversations like in terms of, they might be used to creating their art in a certain way, and then all of a sudden, this is very different. What are those first conversations like?
A lot of the newer artists are thrilled to be here. They haven't been really in a studio before working. And a lot of it's new to them. Everything's shiny and everything's fantastic. A lot of the older artists, they do have a set way that they want to work. They do have a set process as well. So Lyndon Tutusis, for example, with his sculptures, he couldn't do a lot of the work here just because he has a dust vacuum thing in the ceiling. I don't know what it's called. But they are established ways to work, and sometimes the studio doesn't work out that well for them, but it's been good so far.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to see how the artists are influenced by the space, both indoors and outdoors. So seeing how their kind of up close and personal experience with the bison, or maybe being out in some of the vistas here at the park, and how they're getting inspired by that, or how they're reflecting that in their work, how their lived experience is, how that's incorporated into here, or perhaps looking through the lens of their lived experience and then having that mirrored back in the natural setting here. There's just a lot of different it just really interesting to me to see that again reflected in the finished product, or even as they're doing the work. We've had artists here in the past who have gone out and photographed the bison. That has been an inspiration of their works, and then others who have gone out to see the bison and. Yes, the bison are influencing things, but it's really the grass underneath their feet. That's something that they want to be capturing, right? Yeah. So it's always different. It's always exciting every time we have a new artist in residence, and then certainly the creation and development of this program. Every new artist that comes in and kind of that benefit, those tentacles of benefit that kind of reach out not only to our community but for that artist as well. That long after their month here is done, there's these relationships are now created. There's fans that have been developed, by people coming to the park and. I think that is just so special. We are so proud to be working with Greg and Olivia in this way, to be able to offer these opportunities for artists here, and then of course to host them here at the park and have our guests that are coming out here. It's just benefit, and really proud of that.
Speaking of fans, I was talking with Chris earlier. He had 3 people that was speaking with them. Turns out they're from Toronto, and they seen his Blue Jay work, and they were like, I know you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was very much meeting a celebrity for them. A little fun fact, yeah. There's a lot here. It's very much a beautiful place, and a lot of people, like Andrew said, they get inspiration from the environment, the land itself, the bison. We had Breadroots Paths to Matriarchy last year, and it was very much the trails that bison would take as they walked Wanuskewin. There's breadroots that would grow along the trails here, and she very much was inspired by bison, the bison here. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Marcel, I should have asked you this right off the top, but how do you go about picking the artists, or do they approach you? How does that process work?
It's 75-25, I would say. 75 me approaching artists, 25% they come to me. A lot of artists have heard about the program we have at Wanuskewin, so they will write up a brief and a portfolio and send it along my way. Sometimes I am hand-picking the artists. So usually I will pick an artist that can speak to Wanuskewin, the audiences that we have here. That's usually my process, but it's a little mixture of both, I would say.
Nice. I love the fact that when people come here, and like we've talked about, there is so much to see and experience, but there's so much beautiful and original art that makes you think, that invokes emotions. For people who are coming to the park, what do you hope that they take away from this artist in residence program? That's a really big question, but what do you hope they take away?
For anyone who has never been to the park, or maybe that's been a few years since someone's been to the park, I think that they might come with their little toolkit full of stuff that I want to learn about archaeology today, or I'm really inspired about bison, or whichever the case may be. My hope is that, yes, come with those things, but you leave with an additional 3 or 4 things. So that's why the dynamic nature, I think, of the park is so important, and why Wanuskewin should really be viewed as like this living and breathing thing, because it is evolving, it is changing, and as culture changes, it's not stagnant. And so I really hope that when people come out here, they might be inspired to learn more about something else, right? And the art is usually that thing. The galleries is usually that thing that people leave wanting to learn more about an artist, or learn more about a topic perhaps that they're talking about. And being able to do this as a kind of like this central place, this central gathering place, as it has been for 6,400 years, is, to me, really inspirational. It's something that is can at times be fairly daunting, where you are this central location, and again, that gathering place, there's a lot of responsibility, I think, that goes along with that. So really honored to be working with Marcel in this way, as the direction that he's given for the galleries is something I think the entire park can be really proud of. Yeah.
That was good. That is a fantastic question. Maybe I can answer this question with maybe a little bit more of a story. When I was younger, one of my first experiences in a museum, I took my mother out to our local county museum. I thought it would be a fantastic experience for both of us. We went through the museum, and a lot of the settler history was kind of at the front, and everything looked fantastic. It was well traveled, a lot of lights, everything looked fantastic. And then we were walking through the museum, and the histories that portrayed our local band and nation and our stories was at the back, and it was kind of dusty and not well lit. And I don't know if they were consciously saying that Indigenous history and culture is something best left in the past, or it's a little bit dusty and no one really wants to see it. But that's kind of what I took away from that experience, and that's kind of informed my own professional practice, is that I want to bring Indigenous history to the forefront, and it's showcased that all these fantastic artists, and they're vibrant, and we're still around, and the history's still here, and the culture's still here, and it's ever growing. That maybe that will kind of answers your question a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
Just, I really hope people take away from this talk today, and maybe experiences that they've had with Wanuskewin in the past, is that Wanuskewin is built from the community. So this is success that the park might have should be something that everyone in our community feels a part of, because we are, as we move towards UNESCO World Heritage designation in the next couple of years, we are going to be representing the community on an international stage. And for many, international travelers, they might not have a context as to what is Plains culture, what is Northern Plains Indigenous culture specifically. And so this is an opportunity for us to, on that international stage, turn up the brightness of that spotlight and really showcase the beauty and the distinction, the uniqueness of these many nations, and why this is of international importance. And so I really hope that our community, Indigenous and non-Indigenous people, feel invested here, because it could not be more clear that this is from our community. This is born out of the community. And so gentlemen like Senator Hilliard McNabb, who years and years ago, as the park was first getting founded, really stuck his neck out and said, this is of value, this is important, and kept kind of ringing that bell that this is something that should be supported. And here we are 33 years later, and again, all those benefits that keep coming from not just employment, but opportunities for artistic expression, opportunities for career growth. There's just so many benefits that come out of this place, and I know I can only speak for myself, I know in my career, I'm never going to have an opportunity to work at a place like this ever again. That's the nature of UNESCO designations. You're completely unique in the world, and the uniqueness of this place is something that has really there's a lot of responsibility. But something that's really captured my heart for sure. Yeah.
Marcel, anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think I could say it better than what Andrew just did. I think we should go with that. Okay. Yeah, that was amazing.
Thank you both so much. And Andrew, I want to thank you for finding me. We ran into each other at a 525 art gallery opening last spring, and you were like, we got to do something with the artists in residence. Yeah. And we're doing it today. Yeah. And it's so much fun, and I'm learning so much. So thank you both so much.
Thank you for coming. This means a lot to us. Thank you.
Big much.
Trying to do the marketing in grayscale, black and white, so people will have to come see the vibrancy for themselves. That was Chris's idea.
That's a fun idea.
Yeah. It's so, they're going to be beautiful pieces, and the exhibition's going to be beautiful, so.
Oh my gosh, this is so cool. Yeah. So what I'll have you do is I'll have you introduce yourself, so your first and last name, what you do, and then, oh gosh, that's a sweet bunny hug. Sorry, I'm distracted. So your first and last name, what you do, and then because this is audio, can you just describe as best you can where we are?
Yeah.
Okay.
In this present time.
Yeah, in this present time.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whenever you're ready.
My name is Chris Pack. I'm from Red Pheasant Cree Nation. I currently reside in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan on Treaty 6 territory, and happy to be here and happy to have you along for the ride.
Chris, where are we right now?
We are currently in the room that I've been in this past month. It is the Artist in Residence facility. It's a small little room here in Wanuskewin, but a lot of windows and a lot of opportunities for people to come through and check it out.
So you've been here for a month?
Yes, I've been here for a couple weeks now, so it's my second home.
Okay, so because we're audio, can I ask you to just describe this space? Because it's a really neat space, but then there are works, like brilliant works of art that are, would I say, various stages of completion? Yeah.
No, I've been, if it's done, it's kind of going on the side, and I move on to one that's focused on the table. But if I had to explain what I'm doing in audio, it's a lot of storytelling. One of the pieces that I have and take a lot of pride in is the Thunderbird. I feel like the Thunderbird, which is behind there, but the reason I've done the Thunderbird is with the prairies, it's kind of considered the animal that you should be afraid of and worry about, because we deal with a lot of thunderstorms here in Saskatchewan.
Yes, we do.
And so for that to be the spiritual animal above us that we don't have control over, that has all the power, I wanted to do that some justice and see it in a new light of something that can also be very beautiful.
Well, this is stunning. So is that why? Oh gosh, I'm not a good art critique at all, but so I'll ask dumb questions. But is that why, like, kind of lighter, like there's yellow, like a more bright, vibrant colors, perhaps?
Yeah. That's why I kind of went with heavy with the yellows, and to really try have that be the brightness, and then dull the background with like a mute brown. That way, when you see the color, it's very eye popping and catching.
Okay. What about this one here that you had to move down because it was in front of the one we just talked about? But what's this one about? Yeah,
this one was the third one that I finished here in residency. It's the I call it seasonal. Wow, it's a tongue twister. Seasonal siblings.
Okay.
So it's 4 moss bag babies, portrayed though through how they would be wearing their moss bags during a season. So seasonal changes are also throughout the moss bags. So we have the first one being winter, and then we got the snowflakes and the snowdrop, and then the baby itself is bundled more with a bonnet on its head to protect its ears, and the support through the back to make sure even if you're not paying attention with the child's still nice and tucked in. Then you get into spring, where you got vines growing and leaves starting to bud, and the water flowing from melting underneath. And then you get into summer with the more floral and the sun. And then the last one being autumn with the leaves falling off of the flowers, the maple leaf falling, and then snow starting to come again. And then once again, as the story goes with the moss bag, it's back up to being wrapped tight with the bonnet on its head.
That is incredible. What else do you want to show me?
Yeah, I'll go with this one. This one has been my most colorful one, and a lot of layers of different shades of browns. I kind of got lost into it to where, a couple of days passed and I'm like, I'm still doing this. But
Does that happen sometimes?
Yeah, especially with how my days have gone here. Like, time just flies. It's 2:00 and I'm just like, wait, did I eat? And part of that is just like getting lost in the artwork. But the creation story is a story that the Cree interpretation of there being 3 animals who tried to receive Earth from underneath the flood to build a new world on Turtle Island. And so I really went with the 3 animals being the main focus and telling their story, how the beaver tried, couldn't do it, the otter tried, couldn't do it, and it was the muskrat. And then the little pieces of the story being there being spectators and hope of like, a beaver's big enough and strong enough, it'll be able to reach the bottom. Oh, an otter's the fastest and strongest, it'll be able to reach. And it coming up to the little muskrat believing in itself to go and do it. So it's kind of the story of that, along with, like, doesn't matter your size, your height, your weight, if you put your mind to anything, you can do it.
That's amazing. Thank you for, so Chris, like, for this one then, like, because that's an incredibly powerful story. When you're thinking of that, when you start to put paintbrush to canvas, do you know like how it's going to turn out, or is it more like, let's see where this goes?
This one I had locked into my head, knowing I was coming here, and then I kind of started with the background. I just was going to make it blue, and then the turtle shell in a lighter shade of like a tealish, kind of being part of the waves and the swirl of the water, bleeding into that. And then kind of, it's crazy how as soon as the paint touches canvas, I just go, and then wherever it ends up, and I sit back and I look at it, then I go back and revisit. But this one was kind of just, as soon as I knew it was done, was kind of the last line, and I was like, oh, it's complete. So this story was a full, all the way from beginning to end, it told itself.
It is clear how incredible an artist you are, but it's also clear that you enjoy talking about your works, and so that makes this role kind of like, is it a nice fit? Because like we're in this room, but like you're kind of in a fishbowl in a way, because like there's glass and people can come in and ask you questions. Like has that been a fun part of this artist in residency for you?
Yeah, like I'm a teacher first. I've been teaching the last 10 years, so I'm usually that teacher that gets stuck on a rant, and then next thing you know, I look at the clock and I'm like, okay, 5 minutes till recess. You know what? We'll focus on this tomorrow. Let's go get our jackets on and head outside. That was like, in short, my teaching career. Yeah. So to have that ability now switch to where it's art-based and the focus is my art and creating a story through it, it's coming natural. And, I get excited to have those moments to share a full story of a frozen still of artwork, because then you see the story, but then you're seeing it frozen in time, and you're saying, oh, but I understand why it's like that, or how it got to that part.
Okay. How, like, has art always been a big part of your life?
Yeah, art has, the way it started was coloring books. I used to color, I never had control of the remote as a kid. It was my older sister's, so I had to find other ways to not be bored, and one of those ways was coloring. And I fell in love with coloring books, but eventually my coloring books got filled up with colors, and I kind of just asked myself, why don't I redraw? But because of that, I kind of learned backwards. I was drawing outside first, then going in. And when I went to the university for some art classes, they kind of slapped me on the hand, and they're like, you find a focal point, and then you go out of the focal point. So, having the fundamentals taught to me when I was an older teen refined some things to where I still go outside working in sometimes. So, I don't know, it's kind of how it started.
Well, it's clearly working. That's so curious though, or interesting, because I think for some artists, it's like you learn about the strict rules, and then once you reach a certain age, it's like, oh, I can color outside of the lines kind of deal. But you were kind of the opposite of that way. Like, are you happy it sort of turned out that way in a bit? Yeah,
because actually the way it worked for me was color was more important. And now when I went to university for those classes and I got to see detail and get an eye for finding things, the coloring is kind of the celebration afterwards. So now I have the way of, and that's the way I work with every collaboration that I've had in these past 2-3 years, is I usually send a sketch first. They fall in love with that, then I get to have the fun of coloring it. So that's kind of how it's been going.
Wow. How did you find out about this program? And was it something that right away you knew, I would love to take part in this someday?
Yeah, the Greg Ewell Fellowship was actually meeting Greg, and Greg kind of was connecting the dots one day when you heard me speak, and we had a little conversation, and he was just like, hey, have you ever heard of the Artist in Residence? And I kind of was like, no, tell me more. And he just kind of patted me on the back, and he's like, you'll hear about it. And I was like, okay. And then through that, an email chain started of so-and-so reaching out and asking me to apply. And I took the opportunity and applied, but I didn't know the incentives behind it. I didn't know the reasoning, and to know now why the artist in residence is so important. You know, it kind of gets your foot in the door of experiencing what it's like firsthand to be a full-time artist.
Yeah.
So it's been really, really eye-opening, but also a challenge that I'm willing to accept.
May I ask what you have learned about yourself and maybe the greater artistic world, but what you've learned by doing this artist in residence?
Yeah, well, the first day or two, I came in hot. I was like, man, I'm going to do like 8 or 10 pieces. And like, I'm unwrapping everything. And I'm just like, this is going to be so good. And then I sat there kind of overthinking everything to where I just had like a sketchbook in front of me and twirling my pencil. And I realized it had to come from me actually just starting to paint. Not so much thinking and putting like too much thought. Once I started actually physically painting, everything took over, and the story came as I painted. And then I was listening to music and having the space to listen to music and also dabble with every paint color manageable. You know, it kind of opened everything up to where the wheels just start turning creatively.
Wow, that must be so special to have as an artist, just that freedom. And you've got this allotted time, and you've got this beautiful space to just create. That must be like, is luxury the right word for it? I don't know, but like maybe privilege.
I wouldn't say privilege. I would definitely say it's been refreshing. You know, I feel like when you're sitting at home and you're trying to create, or you're not in the right headspace, you know, people go to coffee shops, and this is going to any type of arts, you know, like whether it's writing, singing, you need to find inspiration. So getting a space and then being around such a beautiful landscape, and it's kind of refreshing, and it's the start of a new year. You know, I kind of closed up everything that I had to do in December, knowing I was coming here and it was a fresh start. And that's kind of the reason why I called it from the beginning for my art gallery, was kind of like, it's not necessarily a starting point, but it's an arrival.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. And refreshing. Yeah, that's a lot better word too, because this must be such an energizing place to be and to create too. Like I was just chatting with Andrew and Marcel about that. There's so much here at Wanuskewin to be inspired by. Are you finding that as well, being here, coming here every day? Yeah,
you know, and especially my first week here, it was beautiful outside, and to be in like -5, -7. The second week it was tough, you know, to start up the vehicle for half hour to drive out here and plug it in. But it was part of the process, and you know, from those mornings came some time to sneak away into a conference room with the huge windows and just sit there with coffee and see the frost alongside the whole window and everything, and the haze of like, you don't know if it's steam or what. It's just too cold to tell, but it was beautiful. Yeah. So having those moments too was nice, and the quiet times, and like I said, in a lot of people, it's very peaceful.
What is it going to be like once these works of art are up in the gallery space and people can experience them? What's that going to be like for you?
I haven't really thought about that yet, because I'm too busy trying to. But I hope, and that's part of the reason why I went grayscale for a lot of the posting, and I haven't shown much of the art I'm creating, because I want it to be an experience when a person walks into the door. And I want, you know, the story of this territory and like my storytelling applied to the artwork to really just have you go through it and see it in the phases of how I did it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I meant to ask you this earlier too, but is it, I guess, what is it like knowing that like there is like a finite time you have here, and like there's a bit of a deadline. Do you like working with under that kind of pressure?
Yeah, well, and I think that was part of the cool part of it being an artist in residence is like, I think Greg and Olivia, when they created this, they wanted it to be a job. They wanted it to feel like there's deadlines and there's things you have to meet and there's criteria. And I think that's showing you that little taste of, for all Indigenous artists, that little taste of what it like takes to really accept those challenges and go through those hoops. And yeah, it's kind of, I always look at it in that way of like, this is what it's supposed to be like, Chris, like, let's go. So, you know, I didn't come up with moments of sitting back, and instead I just tried to like run with my head down and be like, not now. And so it's been good so far. So. Yeah.
You've been very generous with your time, because I know you're still working on things. Before I go though, can you explain to listeners what because you talked about the 3 that are completed, but what are you working on right now?
Yeah, currently this is a take from one that I did last year. Last year I did this image called a shapeshifter, and shapeshifter is a being that can turn into anything that it wants. And so that was kind of my inspiration when I came into this residency, was to have that mindset of to create, don't stay in one spot, don't stay in one style, like be willing to try everything and keep moving with whatever comes. And so this is a nod to that. It's that same being sitting down, but instead of it being a shapeshifter, it's actually a person smudging. Smudging is a very great way to cleanse and feel fresh and positive and to take negative energy away. And I wanted that to be the story of this piece, that smudging is actually a very powerful, positive way to feel better about yourself. And I have that surrounded by spiritual animals that are considered protectors. So a wolf, a bison, an eagle, a bear. And they're all looking for different directions, showing that they're protecting this person as they smudge.
This is great, and it's so neat to see it in this process too, because like I can see, like is that pencil on the canvas?
Yeah. So I always do the canvas. I always give a slap of paint just so I don't have those little beady white spots that drive me crazy. So I make sure to wash it up with some paint and let it dry, and then I attack it with a drawing, with a pencil, and then I just start to plug in paint. And then my favorite part is outlining.
Why is it your favorite?
Because it's that coloring book style, right? Like going in with thick lines. So, yeah, that's...
It all comes back to the coloring book.
Yeah, it sadly does. Yeah.
This is absolutely beautiful. Thank you for allowing us into your space today, and for sharing so much. I can't wait to see how it's all displayed in the gallery. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You are listening to Season 8, Episode 6 of YXC Underground, and we are featuring the Artist in Residence program at Wanuskewin Heritage Park. If you like what you're hearing so far, please feel free to leave a 5-star review, and you can see photos from this episode on Instagram and Facebook. Simply search YXC Underground. Supporting the arts is something Olivia and Greg Ewell take a great deal of pride in. The Saskatoon couple, who have been married for 31 years, have seen throughout their lives the impact art can have on a community and individual artists. Greg is the president, CEO, and owner of PIC Investment Group. Olivia has been at home with their children and, as you will hear, has deep roots in Saskatoon's artistic community. In 2023, Olivia and Greg made an extremely generous donation to Wanuskewin to start an Artist in Residence program. They take their supporting role seriously and really enjoy building lasting relationships with the artists who participate in the program. Olivia and Greg were kind enough to meet me at Wanuskewin to discuss their motivation for starting this program and why Wanuskewin means so much to them. I started by asking Greg how they became connected with the park.
By being part of the capital campaign for Thundering Ahead campaign for Wanuskewin was the start of the relationship with Wanuskewin, and understanding the need. Luckily, having gone back to the early 1990s when Wanuskewin was first, we'll say, introduced as a discovery of past events and past cultures and past history. So luckily, a friend of mine was involved with that family that turned Wanuskewin over to this, or turned that farmland over to what is now Wanuskewin Heritage Park. So I luckily got to know about it then, so I've sort of always been aware of the history and the thousands of years of culture here. And then we brought our kids here when we moved back to Saskatoon from Alberta in the early 2000s, and enjoyed the cultural part and the heritage part of what was here before the Thundering Ahead campaign, and then we got involved in the Thundering Ahead campaign, and that really got us hooked.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Was it an easy hook for you, Olivia, to become more involved in all things Wanuskewin?
I think it really was. I think for a couple of reasons. Partly because, again, back in the '90s when I was in university, and I had friends who were doing archaeology and working with Ernie, and so just even knowing about it back then, and then when we moved back to Saskatoon and bringing the kids out here, and just how culturally important it was for our community. And when the whole artist in residence program started, just that's kind of been part of what we've wanted to do along the way as we've been donating money, is really participating in the arts.
Okay. Why was that something for both of you that obviously you've had this relationship with the organization for a long, long time. We're in this beautiful gallery space right now, surrounded by beautiful art. Has art always been like a passion of your guys' that you wanted to sort of bring to the forefront?
It's certainly been all around us, and it goes back the furthest with Olivia and her mom.
Yeah, so my mom is an artist. Her younger years, she, when everybody else was like, either a nurse, a teacher, or getting married, she was not interested in that, and so she left home and went traveling around Paris, Mexico City, and somewhere in Africa, and I can't remember. It might have been Tunisia, and went to art school. And so then when she came back, that was when she started teaching. Met my dad. They moved to Saskatoon, and so she was always an artist. We grew up like going to the Mendel. She gave little afternoon art classes to the neighborhood kids and her friends' kids or whatever. So we grew up surrounded by art. And then when we moved back to Saskatoon after the kids were born, it was like immediately she started drawing us into like going to the Dale Gallery and just I think sort of more like keeping us involved in the art community. And then her and I, that was like the things that her and I would do. It's like, come and meet my friends at this gallery, or so and so's having an art show or whatever. So it was a real kind of bonding time for her and I. So I think that then I think that's what has really stayed or kept me interested in continuing to support artists and the art community.
This is personal for you.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And I think, too, if we talk about Wanuskewin, it's also personal for me because my mom also was good at keeping sort of a cultural piece at the forefront for me, because I was adopted and so have a Metis background. And we didn't know at the time, specifically what nation if it was full Cree or Métis or what. We didn't know that based on the adoption papers that we had. So she was always very keen on making sure that sort of Indigenous culture was present for me. So I think that was another reason for me too, just sort of like maybe subconsciously why Wanuskewin then became important for me, or sort of I feel a little bit connected that way. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So it's clear that this means a lot to you. I'm just curious, like logistically, like how do you approach Andrew and the team here to say like we want to do something more, or do they approach you? Like how did the actual program then come to be?
I'll say just bumping into each other and being part of the Thundering Ahead campaign kept us around here. Getting to go on archaeology digs with Ernie kept us around here. Then, as Olivia described, her mom, which is Dolores Gradish, and she taught in the high school system here in Saskatoon. So lots of people will have been taught by Dolores Gradish. And Del bringing us into the art community and really making sure that we're a part of the art community. The Tees and Purse Collective, though that building and the artists that were there, and just having everybody just be around each other caused us to see what was going on And I will say, biggest kudos to Daryl Bell in terms of our journey through art in Saskatoon and in general, and more specifically with me, because I had a very low level of connection with art community, and was always extremely interested in it, but learned from Daryl a lot, everything.
I've been fortunate in the last couple of years of the podcast to meet with some younger Saskatoon artists or emerging artists, and they talk about the importance of having an opportunity to share their voice in a public setting. And so, you've been doing this since 2023, is my understanding. The program has been on. What has it been like for both of you to meet so many artists who I am sure they were so grateful to have this opportunity? What has that been like for both of you?
Well, I love it. It's like you described in our discussion today, and it's just meeting people and hearing their stories and hearing from where people come from, and seeing and hearing and learning of all of the different stories, of which there are many and varied, and some take you by surprise. That in terms of the life they had and they led, and it reinforced with me the reason that I am drawn to the arts, in that the one common theme in all of those stories is that, much like with sport, the artist can apply themselves with just themselves. They don't need a big academic institutional background to get ahead in the world and to stick handle their way through an academic way of progressing up into the world. Much like with sport, and particularly sport that's individual sport, for example, you can just work with what you have and continue to develop yourself and just put the hours in and put the hours in and put the hours in and get better and better and better and better and better. And it's in that regard that a person can take themselves from the situation they're in and take themselves toward a situation that they want to go to. It doesn't mean that all situations they were in were bad or terrible or awful or anything. They just can take themselves to a situation where they want to go to, much like an athlete could as well.
Olivia?
Basically, again, I enjoy meeting the artists and the difference. Everybody is so different, and all the artwork is so different, and where their ideas come from, and what their journey was to get where they are, and what inspires them to create what they create. All those kinds of things. But I think probably what I like the most is just being able to support somebody in their art and provide an opportunity. I think, yeah.
I would think too, it'd be so neat. I as someone who is not artistic at all, I find the storytelling and the process of how an artist creates what they are creating, I find that just so fascinating. And it seems like you, because when I saw you walking, Greg, you went right over to the current artist in residence and you were already chatting them up and stuff. It seems like, would it be fair to say, do you develop relationships and friendships with these artists? And is that fun for you guys? Is that nice for you guys?
And you do with some, and for different reasons, and who knows why. And then others just, they've come and they've gone, they do their thing, but then some you really do, and it's just great. I mean, and you just think, the other thing I like is building connections as well. And so just this week, I thought of an idea for a past artist that we had here at the Wanuskewin residence, and I thought, oh my goodness, Lyndon Tatusis could do this. So I phoned him up and said, hey man, how's it going? And he's been a wonderful guy that's kept in touch, just every few months or once or twice a year, just how's it going? I'm in the city, how are you doing? And just you connect with certain people. And so he's going to be, so we've commissioned about 25 pieces from him that we're going to use as a very elegant and formal gift to people that'll be coming in to Saskatchewan for a conference in June. And what a hoot, eh?
Yeah.
And so it's that same thing that Olivia was talking about. We really do love helping someone that is working hard to try and do, in this case, their artistic dream. And so that's where, just is a great time.
I love that. Last question for you guys. I love that when people come to Wanuskewin, there is so much to see, but I do love that there is such an artistic side to this place as well, and I think it's a special place, and I love that the arts are showcased here. How does it feel for you guys to know that when people are coming to Wanuskewin and they're going on hikes or they're seeing the bison, they're learning the history, but they're also taking in such unique art, and both of you are playing a hand in that in terms of showcasing those talents? Like, how does that make you feel?
Fabulous. I'm a historian, and we do both like archaeology. And when you think about when anything is dug up and they look in 24,000 years in the past in some places in the world, or 60,000 years in the past in some places in the world, it's they don't judge the sophistication of that culture based on how this bone has been chewed on. It's that we found this artifact and it's clearly symbolic, it's artistic, it's art. That's how we know this was a sophisticated culture. That's pretty cool. And so then I wish I would remember the line, and maybe you can Google it and then put it into the podcast somewhere, because it's that the artists lead the conversation. And so, notwithstanding reconciliation and all of that, this is a place for that. And so it's also just a great way of communicating, and art does communicate the feelings of the artist out to the people, the audience that are watching it, and that communication can be enjoyable or it can be uncomfortable, and both are good.
Yeah. Olivia, how does it make you feel knowing that people are coming to enjoy all this art and that you were playing such a vital role in making that happen?
I think one of the things that Greg and I had talked about when we were, when we've been talking about supporting First Nations artists or artists in general, was that like Haida art has a specific style to their art, and so then you can recognize, oh, this is a piece of Haida art. And so one of the things that we sort of felt was that it was just like, is there a style that could be recognized as a Saskatchewan First Nations art? And so then, if by supporting Saskatchewan artists, eventually there will be sort of a style. And so I think that, and I don't know if that's going to be true or not, because I don't know why somebody would want to, be pinholed into one design or media, but I think that what I do like is just the supporting of First Nations artists. I think that is really, that, I don't know, how does that make me feel? I think that makes me feel joyful to know that people are coming here and recognizing First Nations artists. Yeah.
And it would happen, because you do. I was just at a meeting this morning, and there was a beautiful painting on the wall, and it was watercolor landscape, and so you're like, hey, is that Rita Cowley? Hey, is that Dorothy Knowles? Hey, is that... So it does happen naturally, organically, not contrived, and it doesn't take away from anybody. And I do believe, and we've said this for years now, that was our goal, was that in 30 years from now, you would look at what's being produced, and identifiably you could see it on a shelf in Vancouver or Seattle or Toronto and go, that looks like that Saskatchewan, that prairie art, in whatever form it might be. And I can see a theme emerging when I look at someone like a Kevin Pace, or I look at Chris Chipak, and there's a bit of a cadence to what's happening, and that's not bad. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love the word joyful too, because and Greg, you're right to bring up the fact that like art can bring us joy. It can also challenge us as well, but if it is invoking emotions and you're thinking and feeling, I think it's hitting all the right notes. It's so nice to meet you both, and it's clear that this means a lot to you, and so I feel grateful that you're able to share your passion a bit with our listeners. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been Season 8, Episode 6 of YXE Underground. My name is Eric Anderson. I host, produce, and edit this local independent podcast. If you would like to learn more about the Wanuskewin Heritage Park's Artist in Residence program, please visit their website, wanuskewin.com. A big thank you to everyone at Wanuskewin who made this experience so much fun. You can listen to YXE Underground wherever you find your favorite podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at yxeunderground.com. Please leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode, and these reviews really help the podcast get more exposure on apps like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so your support is greatly appreciated. You can see photos from this episode on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Simply search YXE Underground, and those photos were taken by the wonderful Darby Sutherland. If you know Darby, you understand how she is just a ray of sunshine and brings so much joy to everything she does. It was a blast working with her on this episode. Thank you so much, Darby, for all your hard work. I also want to thank my cousin, Andrew Dixon, for creating the original theme music for the podcast, and Saskatoon's Danger Dynamite for creating and maintaining the website. These interviews were gathered on Treaty 6 territory and the traditional homeland of the Metis. My name is Eric Anderson. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon, Saskatoon.